Uh-oh.
Okay, we'll start with this. It appears that early next month, on the 11th, as part of a boxer show, young up-and-comer Caroline Dubois will be returning to action against seasoned veteran of Canada, Jessica Kamara.
36.
To Caroline Dubois, who is 24 years old, Caroline Dubois, the southpaw, to Jessica Kamara, the orthodox fighter, and the more experienced fighter of the two, world-traveled. Caroline Dubois sports an unblemished record of 10 wins with no losses, no draws, 5 knockouts. To Jessica Kamara, who sports a professional record of 14 wins with 4 losses, no draws, 3 knockouts, having been knocked out 2 times in 18 professional bouts. Last in action in September, opposite the ring Bonnie Hunter, who she beat by way of a unanimous decision. She fought 2 times this year, once in April against the Yoon Mi Choi, and then again in September against Bonnie Hunter, and she will return to action against Caroline early next year.
No ring rust to shake off.
Important tidbits in association with the match. Both Caroline and Jessica have secondary titles. Caroline's got the WBC interim title, and Jessica Kamara has the WBA gold title. If Caroline is allowed to win that WBA gold title, that lines her up for the full one.
The one Katie Taylor has.
To where, if Katie Taylor vacates both the WBC and the WBA, Caroline Dubois may be elevated to full unified champion afterwards.
If she beats Jessica, and I think she's going to.
Caroline Dubois, who fought 3 times last year and 2 times this one, once in February, then again in August. Good bit of strategy from Ben Shalom, securing Caroline Dubois this fight.
I think she wins.
It's hard to imagine that Jessica Kamara will be able to stand up to the power, the precision, the speed, and the ferocity of Caroline Dubois. Jessica Kamara is a good fighter, and this is a good fight. It's a good acid test, but she has been knocked out 2 times before by lesser, less talented fighters than young Caroline Dubois, so it's conceivable that Caroline may be the next to stop Jessica Kamara. The future of boxer. There's been a question all this calendar year as to whether or not Sky Sports will decide to renew with Boxer. Their deal is supposed to be up next year, and we don't know if they'll renew. A few weeks ago, it was announced that Frank Warren would be leaving TNT and migrating over to DAZN. That's all bad for Boxer, and that's all bad for Sky. How are you supposed to keep up with that? Matchroom shows,
Queensberry shows.
top of all the smaller promotional outfits that they're working with, because they're working with quite a few international shows that they're doing. It's too hard for Sky Sports to keep up with just Boxer shows. Boxer doesn't have the bodies, the big fights.
More often, I think what DAZN are doing for the sport of boxing is incredible. I wish every broadcaster would invest the way they do. They're very, very passionate about the sport. They've got a huge team, huge budgets, investing in many different markets, working not just with Matchroom and Queensberry, but many other promoters. And we worked with them on Saturday as well.
Watching a recent Ben Shalom interview where he heaps praise upon the DAZN platform and the investment that they're making in the sport of boxing, you just get the sense that
Sky might not renew.
the way he's suckling at DAZN's proverbial teat, perhaps hoping that if Sky doesn't renew, he can migrate to DAZN like Frank Warren just did, and I'm not against it. I mean, if they're working with smaller promoters like Dimitri Salita, for example,
Or GBM.
I don't see why they wouldn't work with Ben. I don't see why they wouldn't pick up Boxer if push comes to shove, and that's value for money for me and you. That's more boxing, that's more shows.
We'll see.
Boxer is still on Sky, and they're doing at least one show that we know of this one that Caroline Dubois is set to fight on. The deal with Sky will be up several months into next year, and we'll see what Sky decides to do, but I don't mind the idea that Boxer might end up on the same platform as Matchroom and Queensberry.
What that essentially means is that Caroline Dubois would be boxing on the same platform as, say, Terry Harper, Rhiannon Dixon, Beatrice Ferreira.
It's a good bit of strategy on Ben's part. To secure Caroline that Jessica Kamara fight, that brings her closer to more alphabet titles, though not necessarily more high-profile fights, and it's the fights that she needs.
You can move your pieces on the board and bring them closer to fighting for all those alphabet titles or winning those alphabet titles, but you still need the big fights. The Jessica Kamara fight is a good fight. It's good. Against a solid fighter, it's a solid fight, but it's not a big fight.
They're doing what they can while they can. Still, I like the fight. I like Dubois versus Kamara. Edge to Dubois. We'll talk more about the fight as the fight date approaches.
In other news, Shakur Stevenson versus William Cepeda was all set to happen until William injured his hand while fighting Tevin Farmer last weekend. So you would naturally think Shakur would start targeting, I don't know, a Frank Martin or some other world champion, right? Shakur and Lonesome Eddie made an offer to my 22-year-old prospect, Kid Austin, who has no world championship experience. This is exactly what I mean when I say Eddie doesn't know how to build a career. Look, Bob Arum built Shakur Stevenson to become a world champion. You actually want to put him in with a prospect, Eddie? I didn't think it could get any lower for you, but it does. And that brings me...
It's just a long-winded way of Oscar saying he doesn't want to make that fight. He doesn't want to put Floyd Schofield in the ring with Shakur Stevenson. Shakur reacted to Oscar's video by saying, exactly, Kid Austin talks super big online, but look at your own promoter. Dog, y'all are sad. And I sent that to your punk-ass prospect because he talked as if he's elite. Tell that bench player to stop speaking like he's a starter, Oscar, and stay in a child's place.
Whether you like Shakur Stevenson or not, he's right. The only reason we're here now is because Floyd Schofield threw his name into the hat. He volunteered.
He was insistent that if the Cepeda fight falls through, he would be willing to stand in his place. So here we are. Floyd Schofield responded to Shakur by saying, "This is a message from Oscar De La Hoya. It is on Shakur Stevenson. You can't run from this."
Okay, this is just stupid.
And the new, "We accept the challenge."
Seen in the image below is text correspondence from Oscar De La Hoya to Team Schofield saying, "My man, I seriously believe in your son so much and have love for him, but he's 22, and I know how to make a champion for the next 15 years, not run the risk of getting beat because he had no experience. If you're telling me to make it happen, then I will. Happy Thanksgiving and have a blessed day."
Between Oscar's Ass Clap Thursday video and his text correspondence to the Schofields, you couldn't accuse him of being overly confident that Floyd is ready, that Floyd will win.
He knows he won't.
Shakur Stevenson responded by saying, "Don't call me wrong for what I already knew. I knew from the jump. Nobody was gonna let me get in the ring with that little kid. This was just me calling his bluff. That's all. Muratalla next. Will Bob allow his investment to fight me?" To which Floyd Schofield responded, "Stop lying. The fight is on." Oscar messaged me himself. "Separate the weak from the obsolete. Hard to creep from them Brooklyn streets. It's on. Fuck all that bickering beef. I can hear sweet trickling down your cheek. Your heartbeat sounds like a Sasquatch's feet. Thundering, shaking, and concrete. Biggie Smalls."
What?
Stupid. I told you, it's stupid. It's asinine. Like everything else in the American boxing scene. Here you have the Schofields piping up, claiming they'll stand in for William Cepeda, but their promoter is clearly against it, and their promoter is trying to talk them out of it so that you can pretend it's Shakur who's running.
Saying, "Stop capping and get ready to fight."
Stop capping. Stop capping. What's capping? What do you mean by capping? What do? You just repeat whatever new buzzword the kids are saying without thinking about it?
Yes, that's exactly what they do.
How is it cap? What's the cap part? Oscar De La Hoya is so clearly against you fighting Shakur Stevenson, he himself says you're not experienced, you're not ready. How is that Shakur, quote-unquote, capping?
Stupid, and it's childish.
Either Floyd Schofield himself or his father came up with an avalanche of bullshit throughout all of this, saying, "We love our promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, and we do value his opinion, but this fight is personal. Remember Shakur Stevenson spoke bad about my dad. He was very disrespectful to my dad, calling him a female and telling him to suck your private area. I stayed humble the whole time, even when he had people calling my dad auntie. This is bigger than boxing. Now it's time to back up all that fake tough talk, Shakur. All of you can think what you want, but Shakur knows what's up. Sign your contract, fake champion, and stop fooling people like that guy. I beat you up before, and I will do it again. This time the world will see how fragile you are. You are too tender to mess with me. Now I will go back to my world and leave the typing to you, Shakira, and my dad. How can you mess with me with those pillow hands? You have no power."
I mean, he doesn't, but he's not the one that started this. You and your father did. You injected yourselves into this. You started it.
Why are we pretending that Shakur is the one that's running? He so clearly isn't. Matchroom sent you an offer.
They want to do it.
Don't get nervous now, Shakur. It doesn't matter what our promoter feels. You gave us your word, now live it out. You said if Zepeda ducked you, then we are next. All a man has is his word and integrity. We are fighting February 22nd, correct? Now sign your contract and let's fight. Oscar agreed to sign ours. Let's put on a great fight for the fans.
All of this because the Schofields couldn't keep their trap shut.
Our promoter, Oscar De La Hoya, is signing for us to fight. Stop typing like the fight isn't happening. Let me find out you're scared, Shakur. The fight is on for February, so stop typing and start training. Don't get scared now. End the new. Just have the tissue for after this fight. You're a crier. We will win, and you know it. Your mouth got you into this ass whooping. The fight is on. Oscar is approving it, so stop capping.
Do you think this fight is gonna happen?
No. Just like I didn't think the William Zepeda fight was gonna happen, I don't think this fight is gonna happen. It's too counterintuitive that you're gonna take on somebody like Shakur Stevenson on a whim when you've yet to face a former champion.
Who's the best guy Floyd Schofield fought so far?
So your last opponent, Artem Hadatunian, 12-1, was elite. We are about to whip Shakur's ass. Don't believe the hype. He's not like that, and we will show the world. Watch Shakur Stevenson try to find a way out of this fight. He is scared, and he doesn't really want the smoke.
This is so stupid. Artem Hadatunian has the amateur background that Floyd Schofield doesn't have, and whether you think he's good or bad, what he really was a late replacement. A late replacement for Frank Martin, who ducked.
Do you remember a couple of videos ago where I said that Americans are far too happy being mediocre and doing mediocre things?
Too comfortable being ridiculous. This is yet another example.
Shakur is not the one running. Shakur, and nobody on Shakur's side, is averse to this fight. It's your promoter that's averse to this fight. It's your promoter that was trying to talk you out of it.
Now you're just acting stupid, trying to save face, but you can't.
Floyd Schofield is going to have to walk away from this fight after writing a check that his ass can't cash. I don't think this is going to happen.
And it'll be bad optics for him when it doesn't.
And the worst thing is that none of this needed to happen. You got caught shooting off at the mouth, speaking out of turn, and he called you bluff. Now he's making you look bad. He's making you look like an idiot.
They are not gonna fight. I don't think they're gonna fight. And if they do,
well, that's even worse. Because then you end up losing a fight that you didn't need, that you were so obviously not ready for, but you ended up in for no reason other than your mouth.
Stupid.
Whole goddamn thing is stupid. Asinine like everything else you get in the American boxing scene. Just a bunch of big talkers.
Talk too much.
That's all you ever get from the American boxing scene these days. Talk, 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 talk.
If you shut up, you don't end up in this situation. And stop pretending that you're ready for this because you're not.
The only silver lining in all of this is that when Floyd ends up walking away, people won't be as hard on him because he's young, because he's a kid.
It's young kids and they're overzealous boxing dads.
It's like a sitcom that isn't funny. Oscar also mentioned this ongoing situation with Ryan Garcia, saying, "Ryan's team thought they could negotiate this entire deal behind my back. Everyone is aware I have the global rights to Ryan's fights, so what the hell? When you sign a contract, it means it's legally binding and you must abide by the terms or risk getting sued, which is what we unfortunately have to do. If Golden Boy is not included in this fight, it wouldn't be the first time that Oscar sued, rather countersued Ryan Garcia. Remember, Ryan Ryan tried to find a way out of his Golden Boy Promotions contract, and for that, Oscar countersued,
thereby forcing Ryan to honor it.
Ryan Garcia responded to Oscar by saying, "I think I need to drop a clapback as well. You said it was okay while I was at your offices with no objections. Also, Eric is on record saying he is glad the exhibition is happening and you guys had full knowledge, even was invited to the event. All this was written in Oscar's clapback voice."
Hey, it's time for Ask Clap Thursdays.
This is not about Oscar keeping Ryan on the bench. This is about Oscar making sure he gets his cut. And I wondered about this at the presser.
The nature of this arrangement that Ryan has with Risen, and whether or not Golden Boy Promotions is in any way involved.
And DAZN, who gets the U.S. distribution rights to this show? Are they exclusively going to Risen? Because the whole value of doing an event with Ryan is that U.S. audience that supports him.
That's what he brings to the table. If all of that goes to Risen and Ryan, that effectively cuts Golden Boy out and DAZN.
But if you include them, then it kind of defeats the purpose of doing this thing with Ryan for Risen. If you can't capitalize off his U.S. audience, then what's the point? I don't actually know how they're going to settle this. Are the U.S. rights to the show going to go to DAZN, or is this as simple as ensuring that Golden Boy gets a cut out of Ryan's purse?
And why is it that Ryan thought he could do all this without involving Golden Boy Promotions in some way?
Ryan claims that Oscar and Eric were both okay with this, but clearly Oscar isn't. Or is it that Oscar was not aware this was going to be a pay-per-view?
It could be any number of things, and I don't actually know that they're going to situate this in time for the event to go through.
But this accents what I'm always telling you guys about Oscar and his Clapback Thursday segments, that before you go worrying about what Eddie Hearn has going on or what Canelo has going on, Dana White, just all these people that Oscar doesn't get along with, tend to your own house because you have your own problems.
Ryan is your golden goose.
Right now, he's the biggest name and the biggest draw in your stable, and you still don't get along with him. You don't seem to get along with him any more than you were getting along with Canelo before he left you, and Ryan would too, if he could.
He would jump ship.
You consider that Canelo Alvarez left Oscar, Sinicia Estrada left Oscar, Jaime Munguia just left Oscar.
And Ryan would too at the drop of a hat if he had that kind of autonomy. Is Oscar really in any position?
Is he really one to talk about what Eddie Hearn is doing wrong?
Mind your business.
I interpret these Clapback Thursday segments as a coping mechanism, a way for Oscar to vent his frustration by targeting people he already doesn't get along with, turning a blind eye to his own pitfalls and his own in-house issues that need tending too.
You better make nice with Ryan while you still can and while he's still under contract, because the day that contract is up, if you don't sort this out, he's gonna be the next golden goose. You lose.
This rift between them didn't all of a sudden start with this Rikuya Anpo situation. They've been at odds with each other by my count for at least 4 going on 5 years, going all the way back to the days of the Romero-Duno fight.
I don't imagine Ryan has that much more time left in his existing deal.
You wonder that the reason Ryan doesn't target alphabet titles, doesn't want to fight for one, and doesn't want to win one, because if he did, that might extend his deal with Golden Boy Promotions?
Yeah, that's how some of those contracts break down. If you win a title, you're on the hook for more time and more fights.
Could be that, or it could just be that Ryan is an undisciplined, unprofessional idiot. Neither would surprise me.